All right, we've got a pretty action-packed session. I'm going to have, okay, great. We've got a few folks showing up. Great. Make sure you guys have read this. Super, super important. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna keep moving because we've got a lot to cover today. So as you guys know in our sessions, we try to repeat things quite a bit because as founders, most of you guys are trying to jump out of an airplane, build your parachute as you're coming down, and at the same time, you're having to learn this Japanese, this Swahili that is fundraising, right? And so the challenge with that is that there isn't a lot of information on really how fundraising works at the highest level. So there's going to be some things we do to repeat, but what I like to do is I like to invite my funder friends in so that we can talk about different perspectives, different things, so that these sessions are different every single time. So you can go check out the recordings online. We have one for every single month, and they all are different. We'll see how advanced we get today, but most people have not mastered the basics to be getting into the more advanced side of things. A couple of things before we launch in and we start talking about some things is whatever you think you've learned about fundraising is probably not complete or fully correct. So a couple of things just to know right out of the gate. VCs and angels only control 3% of the available money that's in the market that's moving into venture. If they only control 3%, you should be asking yourself, where's the rest coming from? It's coming from the check writers. Who are the check writers? VCs typically are a general partner in their fund. That means they control and they run it. They have LPs. These LPs are limited partners that put up the majority of the money that is then put at stake to invest in your companies, right? You start asking yourself, who are the LPs and where does their money come from, right? Because the LPs are the ones that have all the money. And the LPs, as far as the largest groups of them, break down into three major groups. You've got private equity groups, you have family offices, and you have the Fortune 2000. And I want this to sink into your head because you're going to hear me talk about it a lot. The Fortune 2000, which are the companies that power and run the world, also every single one of them has a venture arm. All of them are allocating to startups and ventures. They do so for their own reasons, and they almost never, ever, 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 repeat after me, do it for equity. They do it for the outcome that they want. So if you can show them that you can produce an outcome that they're in search of, then they will often give you money, and it's not debt, which means it's not a loan, and it's not equity, which means they're not partners in taking investment in your business. Super important for you to understand. I know it gets really confusing. Why would a company do this, right? So for example, we have James from Las Vegas here. He has JewelFit. JewelFit is kind of a minimum viable dose. You go in, you bang out a workout in 15 minutes. The computers and the servers are actually working you out, and you're getting a muscle failure, fatigue situation in under 15, 20 minutes. You're having everything be tracked. So somebody like that, a James, who's already raised a couple of $1 million, can go to somebody that might have an outcome that he can produce. Maybe they want the data. Maybe they want some aspect that he's making happen in this very unique, very busy world that we live in, right? So James can start to imagine and be very creative and say, who has my money that is aligned? Who can I produce an outcome for that will actually write me a check? I was just at the Blueprint Real Estate Tech Conference this week. And it was very interesting as I was pointing out to even my partners that almost everybody there that represented anybody in property tech, many of the large companies, they were like, look, I'm with American Family Insurance, I run their venture arm. I'm with the National Association of Realtors, I run the venture arm. So just know this, that the largest companies out there are also funders, and they're sitting on huge amounts of cash, and they invest. They sponsor capital into projects. We call it sponsored capital here because it's not equity, it's not debt, for the reasons that they have, which are very specific to them. Every single company will have a different reason why they do it. Super, 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 super important for you to understand, because that's the number one question I get from everyone is, why on earth would anybody do that, right? Okay, we're going to jump in because we've got a lot of people to hear from today. I have a very, very good friend named Terrell who came in from Miami. He's going to come hang out. He's going to take this mic from me. Terrell, come join. Guys, it's really cool and really inspiring to talk to founders that are willing to do whatever is required to be successful. I believe that Terrell is one of those individuals. And so we won't get into a lot of his story because he's a super private guy. He doesn't even really want to be up on stage here. Talking in public isn't his thing, but he's got too many gems for us to not really get into it a little bit. So Terrell came from another country to the United States, to Chicago, with a bag. That's it, and a dream, no money, and has been quite successful in building some technology companies.
Yeah, I thought that's the only way you come to US. I mean, really. I mean, you take your bag and you go. Figure it out.
He's
Thanks.
like, well, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about, you know, from your lens, you're somebody that's highly interested in capital, and you're also somebody that I believe is leading in the forefront when it comes to AI. So I think what would be fun to chat about with our time together here up on stage would be, you know, what are you seeing as it pertains to capital and AI, and what are you seeing as far as your viewpoint of how AI is going to be shifting business? And talk a little bit, just real quick while we have some time, about Einstein AI and what you're building there.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for the inviting. Yeah, honestly, don't talk that much on the stages, but one thing I want to say, it really surprised me what's happening in the Las Vegas, like from community standpoint, how the startups, how many events happening here. It's great. Those are the places I would say, like, you get those funding and connections. It's not always about the funding, somebody writing you check. You can find the good partners in the business that you have a synergy. You can create that basically first initial product you need. And from that standpoint, I see majority of the founders are going out, hey, I need to raise funding. No, you don't. I mean, there are a lot of things you can do before raising funding. When coming to AI and the fundraising, I mean, what I know from my background as a consultant, you know, in my other life for the private equity, venture capital firms, hedge funds, and if you add the AI into mix, you can enable, basically remove the gatekeepers to the money, basically. And
that's one of the reasons fundraising is broken, guys, I believe. My obsession is to build software to automate the fundraising process. Gatekeeping, if the speed of blockchain and AI is moving so fast, why is it that a founder can spend a year, and you should prepare yourself for that, a year raising capital? It's quite frustrating, but there is a pathway forward. Don't kid yourself, companies are getting funded every single day. There's an unlimited amount of capital that's out there.
Absolutely. From the AI standpoint and the blockchain, what I've seen from the startups that they are raising funding, and then I tried myself as well. I hate fundraising, I will be honest with you, but that's why we.
You don't want that juju. I don't want any of you guys saying that. That's the wrong attitude to have. That's the reason why he partners with guys like me.
No, I will.
You want to say, I love fundraising. Repeat after me, I love fundraising, and fundraising loves me.
But the reason I will say you're coming to the gatekeeper, because as a person who moved here, I don't have any common ground. Like back in the days, no common ground with anybody. There's nothing to build that rapport that I am from this school and the same thing until I started my MBA with the Chicago Bulls. At that moment, I realized, yeah, that's how you get the common connection and the networks and everything else. What I'm saying, gatekeepers, the reason I hate, don't get me wrong, hate is like very strong word, just because of the maybe vocabulary. I would say I'm using that word.
It's okay for you to hate gatekeepers. We don't like those guys.
Yeah, why?
Those guys.
The reason is, like, you gotta know somebody to put your idea or the already built product in front of these investors who's really funding these projects, and then if you don't know them, you are not getting in front of them. And then to get in front of them, just a cold reach out doesn't get you anywhere.
Can I say something on this real quick, guys? So many of you guys were at the Venture House Poolside Pitch. As you guys know, we have a series of properties we've dedicated to fostering venture here in the Vegas venture ecosystem in Nevada, to find the best founders and connect them to the right resources and relationships they need to capitalize their companies. You may also know that our obsession, our team, is focused on producing founder funders. These are founders that get capitalized and then are able to exit their companies. So I had a lot of founders call when they were applying for this poolside pitch that we had the other night, and they were like, hey, is it worth for me to fly in? Is it worth for me to drive in? Like, you know, am I gonna get a check? Well, first of all, you almost never get a check the first minute that you ever meet an investor. They have to do due diligence. They need to understand who you are as a human being. They need to be able to look you in the eyes and say, does this person have the eye of the tiger? Do they have the grit to get the job done and to never stop no matter what it takes? That's how companies win. And then are they able to do that in a way where they can recruit the right team? Because teams are what win championships. So what I said to some of these founders is, get your ass in the car, get your ass on the plane, and get down here. Because not only were there 20 funders in that particular event that we had over 25 exits, and just one of the exits alone was $11.6 billion. So what I try to have them understand is this is the beginning of a relationship that you have with these capital relationships. And you build them as time goes on. And even if it's not a yes right now, it can be a yes later. If you're a smart founder, you build a relationship by understanding what that investor truly wants, whether it's personally or whether it's professionally as an investor, and then seeing how you can deliver that. And if it's not a yes right now, what can you do as time goes on to deliver updates that make it clear that you're a founder in motion? You are making things happen. You do what you say you're going to do, which that simple thing, that very simple thing, is what separates you from every other founder out there. Kid yourself not, guys. This isn't about resources. You are the source. You are the most important ingredient in your startup. And so you need to always take, last time we had Mr. Alex Lee up on stage, he's raised millions of dollars for real estate here in Las Vegas in the last year. And we have been sitting down talking about the importance of our way of being, the way we show up, our integrity. Do we do what we say we're going to do? And when that funder is talking to us, do they get the sense that this is somebody that actually takes accountability and full ownership? So when you think about that, it's your capacity that is ultimately going to drive whether or not you're successful with this. And that relationship you have to yourself or to source or God or whatever, how you ever want to look at it, is an energy that they feel when they're in your presence. You are selling them and you're enrolling them into your vision, or you're disenrolling them at all times. There is no in between.
Yeah, my recommendation would be, that if you are a founder, honestly, you always fundraise. Doesn't matter you closed the round, you didn't.
Absolutely.
As soon as you closed it, start fundraising for the next round if you will need it. Or just to build that relationship, because don't be transactional sales guy coming in and trying to sell me something. When you are not building that rapport with the investor always, even if he's not your investor, create different investor update that is going out, especially to those people, keep them up to date. So when you pitch him, and then when you pitch them next time, if you really immediately need funding, faster, tomorrow, something happened, right? In that case, you have a way, they already know you, they know your progress, and now they don't need to do that much of a due diligence. Yeah. And that's why, if you are a founder looking for like long-term, or if you are a short-term, you want to do like, get somebody's money and then leave 6-7 months or maybe 18 months, really good life, and spend that money, yeah, that's a different story. You shouldn't be here.
Two things on that were really excellent. Guys, you are always fundraising, always. The fundraising begins now, even if you're not raising for 6 months. It takes so long to develop those relationships. You needed to have started yesterday. When founders call me and they're in a panic because they're out of money, the problem began 8 months ago. Mm-hmm. You need to understand that. You are always fundraising. You are always selling and marketing to get clients and services into the business, right? Because that's where your cash flow comes in. I often tell most of you founders, many of you guys don't actually need to raise. You need to learn how to sell your asses off so you have client cash flow coming in. Many of you don't have businesses that are actually a fit for the venture model. You need to ask yourself that. Am I interested in building a company that does 20 to 40% a year, growth, or am I interested in building a rocket ship? And am I the founder that's willing to look at everything that I have to improve, everything I get to become in order to step into the founder that's going to create a company like that? You're always fundraising, you're always selling, and you're always recruiting to build a team. And so that was really excellent what he said. Super, 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 super important, because these funders can come back to you at a different point in time, and it is all about creating wins for them. If you listen very closely to what anybody is talking to you about, they'll tell you what you believe, what they believe. And you can actually go and research this stuff to find out what is it they typically invest in. But if you're really smart, you'll find out what the human being thinks. Because a human being is ultimately making the decision to write you a check. AI will not change that anytime in the distant future for these very, very large checks.
Yeah, one of the things is do not send any investor just forward the emails, and then try to research their portfolio. And I would recommend, if you receive a email as an investor, going through, seeing your portfolio company's name, how I can add value as a new tech to your portfolio companies. That's why you need to invest in me, is different story that, hey, I need the money. It's not going to get you to the...
In some cases, guys, just sending out decks, it better not be, but it definitely shouldn't be better than you presenting the deck. The way I like to write decks is the deck is the backdrop, to the energy and the level of preparedness I have. There's a reason why at Poolside Pitch at Venture House, we don't allow decks. We don't allow any slides. As a funder, I want to understand that I'm betting on the jockey that is going to get that horse across the finish line. Sometimes first, and sometimes just getting to the point where that product's in the market, and then they're able to go out and get the support that the startup needs, right? And so if you don't know your stuff and you're relying on slides, it very quickly shows. So as we like to say at Venture House and Poolside Pitch, we like founders that can do their own stunts, no slides, right? Super, super important. The other thing that I have as a concern about somebody that needs slides is it means that in a native environment, when you're almost at a peer level or just in a more casual environment with people that can connect you to capital or are capital players themselves, you need to be able to pitch and them not know you're pitching them. Can your 10-minute pitch be broken into 30-second sound bites over the span of a 30-minute conversation, right? Super important.
And then another way of the funding, I mean, I don't like giving or investing into startups in a cash, especially when it's early. That's why we created this from the beginning R&D lab, where we develop at decentralized labs a lot of products, like 20, 30 different products, and then if you're at the core of those products mainly, that can help the startup go to market faster, fail, and they hit the wall faster to realize that, hey, my dream versus the reality is different. That is the first thing founder. If you are first-time founder, that's what matters. And then we invest in the tech. We prepare tech. We put them, and you don't need to worry about if you don't have a team, technical team. We'll take care of it. But it comes to a moment that when you give the first-time founder large amount of cash, rarely you see they spend it efficiently.
Oh, the inefficiency.
Yeah, and then it comes, you see, like, I have seen the guy, like 2 months after the fundraise, bought Ferrari. I'm looking at it, I mean, how the hell did you get that Ferrari? I mean, really, if any of your investors know it, if I would be any of them, I would recall all my money back. You are idiots, I mean, literally. And then yesterday I'm talking to other, one of our executive team members, and they say, hey, we working with this startup. They raised $8 million 9 months ago, and they couldn't finish the product, and 2-person team. They couldn't finish the product, that they ran out of money, $8 million. Come on.
Guys, I can't stress to you enough how the constraints that are being placed upon you, Lauren, don't go anywhere, that are being placed upon you are part of the beautiful environment that you get to create in. So we're going to keep moving. I'm actually going to bring my friend Lauren up to stage real quick. If you could just scoot down a seat real quick, buddy.
Absolutely.
This is Terrell, really amazing guy. I could spend a lot of time breaking down a bunch of stuff with him. This is Lauren Anderson from All In Recruiting here in Las Vegas. She's a venture-backed recruiting firm. She's doing all the recruiting for the Super Bowl, and she's also an angel investor herself, so she writes checks. And so what we're going to talk about real quick as kind of a teaser for an upcoming portion that we're going to do that's going to be dedicated to the human capital pillar that I alluded to earlier, is just the importance of the team and the recruiting aspect, and how, guys, you will not go anywhere if you cannot recruit the right people. So she's just going to give us a couple of hot tips and tricks on what we can do to be very forward thinking with the fact that the human capital thing, guys, it is the most important capital that you will bring into your company, because companies do not build themselves. Even tech doesn't build itself. Lauren Anderson.
Thanks, Kurt. Leave it to you to put somebody on the spot, right?
Yes.
No, it's great to be here. I own All In Recruiting and Talent Boutique, so we work with technology companies around the country and help them hire top talented and diverse professionals. So we're hiring cybersecurity professionals. We're hiring actually for mining and construction companies up in Reno that are working on the big lithium mines for the future of electric vehicles. So the importance of having top talented professionals is essential, right?
Critical.
It's going to help you drive your success in your organization. You definitely want to be attentive to the retention techniques, right? So that you're not losing money once you are funded by way of folks being bad hires or having any issues like that, turnover, churning through people. We talked about that. Well, you talked about it last talk about JP Morgan and how much money it costs for companies to, have to release employees that don't work out.
And they're willing to spend it because it is that important. We're talking like 8 figures a week in churn for employees, and they're willing to spend it no problem because they know how critical it is.
Yeah, so we're all about top talent. We're actually hiring for the Super Bowl as well. So we've been able to diversify industries since last year when tech kind of imploded, right, with hiring freezes and layoffs and things like that. So we've moved into mining, we've moved into sports and entertainment because our city is the coolest in the country. And we've got Super Bowl coming and Formula One and everything else. So yeah, super fun stuff. We love people. My staff is here recruiting, so if you guys want to talk about jobs, we're happy to do that. And what else did you want me to talk about?
Could you just give us your quick tips? They're brand new as a startup. What their first hire, what to look for, what you've learned.
So we were actually talking about a few things the other day, like contractors versus W-2 employees, right? Projecting your budgets out, what strategy is most appropriate for your business. Most startups will start out with 1099 contractors first. Of course, you've got your employees that are going to absorb the tax liability, so it is cheaper on your end. But then you want to have W-2s ultimately to become an actual have an actual company with infrastructure. So my best advice would be to understand the difference between the two, the 1099ers, the W-2 employees, and make the best decision for you that is going to, help you keep your money instead of, having to tackle some of the issues like unemployment that come up when folks leave or insurances and things like that. Let's see, what else can I tell you?
Guys, hiring the wrong people could be deadly to a company.
Can I add something? About the hiring for the startups? First thing, do not pay full salary. Really. I mean, if you are building a product. First, 10 people has to be people believing in your vision and the mission. Give them equity and salary. See how much that way you can understand what portion they choose. They want to have how much equity versus salary. Give them 3 options. That way you will see how long that person will stay, or can you rely on that person for a longer term. If person chooses the money first, stay away. Doesn't matter. Second, do not develop your product as much as you can outsource. On the first year and a half, you will save investor and yourself a lot of money, and then you will keep your runway longer.
And this is advice for early hires, guys.
Yeah, very early hires.
As you get further in and you're growing at a lightning pace and you're capitalized, you're going to need to probably actually pay 5 to 10% above market if you really want the best people. But in the beginning, their reason for being there can't just be the money. That's where your ability to enroll people into your mission and into the vision of what you're building is absolutely critical. And this is a maker. This is a guy that has constructed many, many companies, built software. He's, in my opinion, at the leading edge of AI technology. And so when he tells you to be very careful, he's got dozens and dozens of people working on software projects at any given time all over the world.
Yeah, I agree with what you mentioned. So another tip would be, don't be afraid to think outside of the box, right, when it comes to setting up your compensation structure. So initially when we were growing our team, and still are growing our team because of Super Bowl demands, we had, first we started out with contractors, right, and it was stipends, monthly stipends. Then we went to base salary plus commissions. Then we went to just commissions. And now we're in a whole nother area where we're considering offering equity to the employees. So don't be afraid to think outside the box. Most
equity
people,
with a vesting schedule, which means they don't get it until they show up for 4 years.
Yeah, and so don't be afraid to think outside the box. You don't have to give people a base salary right away. People that are willing to grow with your organization, like you said, if money is the most important incentive, it does matter, especially if you're in sales, right? You're hiring salespeople.
Developers tend to be more sensitive to it as well because their market value is very high.
Yeah.
Besides that one more thing. This I had it from my own experience. There was very low times, and then I didn't even have money to pay employees. The reason we hired the way I'm saying we hired, 6 months I didn't pay anybody. Out of 60 people, only one person left. They didn't get paid 6 months. I told them, you guys need to find a job. I don't know tomorrow. But I explained the whole basically strategy, everything else, and then everybody stayed. And then
Guys, did you hear what he just said? 6 months, his people stick around, that many people. Ask yourself if you're the kind of leader that has the kind of vision and has done a good job recruiting that would make you think that you'd have 60 employees stick around for that long without being paid. Also, that's pretty remarkable.
With the AI now today, I mean,
come on in, guys, slackers.
With the AI, you can find some of your employees or the part of the work. Always make your employees, doesn't matter what level, what department they are, make them to use it. Get them some tools that they can leverage AI and save time. We built, for example, one of the tools, I'm a lazy person. It's called the Einstein AI. Any contract I used to basically receive 30-page contract to send attorney, review it, and pay him 5-6 hours time. Now I'm uploading and asking all the questions. What's my obligations? What things I can fix in this contract? Or I am uploading Excel files and or from my calls, creating proposals, sending out. These kind of things takes like minutes, saving me at least 40% of my time. That kind of things use in your organization with the developers and as well as with any person works in the company. That way you will be more efficient and then you will need less people in your organization. That's another thing.
Awesome.
We build these subject matter expert people, agents that you can basically hire. Companies will be able to hire them. And then AI is just working in your virtual environment.
In the current environment, guys, it's very normal actually for there to be a fractionalized CTO, fractionalized COO. That's becoming a common practice based on kind of where the market currently is with what people perceive is the drying up capital. It's total BS. The VCs might be drying up because of their lack of performance over the last couple of years. But the actual available capital has not shifted or changed. It is still much bigger. And I want to give you guys, just want to impress this upon you, 3% out of 97%. This is a couple $100 billion. The amount of available capital is well into the trillions. Do not kid yourself. There is capital out there every single day flowing into ventures. So if that's the case, why not you? We're going to keep moving, but go ahead with your last comment.
So I'll give a few resources here locally. Access Community Capital.
Yeah, Nick.
Yes.
Nick Steele.
Nick Steele's team, Rodney Chichester, they are supporting small businesses, startups here, funding them, and I would certainly suggest if you're on the hunt for capital to reach out to Access Community Capital. Great resource in Las Vegas. And there's also I think it's called the Battleborn Project, but the state has a website now where if you're looking for funding, you can go on there. It's going to suggest the different capital partners that are available for your business, and they'll set up a call with you and they will fund your business. So that's just a resource. But one more tip as far as retaining employees, it's really important, especially if you don't have the money to pay base salaries, to get them tied to a cause, right? So diversity, equity, inclusion is extremely important to most tech companies right now. Getting people involved in volunteer opportunities at your company, whether they're going to do Habitat for Humanity on the weekend or anything like that, supporting students in STEM and having volunteer activities for your employees, that is going to help people become loyal to you, help them align with their passions while they're working, right? And you can get people to stay when you are working on getting more funding for payroll. So yeah, thank you so much.
Hey guys, don't go for just the easy wins. Everyone and their dog is going to follow up with certain funds that are available or whatever. If that's the extent of your fundraising willpower, you're not going to win. You need to be willing to go and find the investor that is the perfect match. And let me actually change what I just said. The investors. There's this concept of capital stack. If you're a real estate developer, you know that you're not going to fund a $100 million project with just one type of capital. You'll have 6 or 7. As a founder, you need to understand that you're actually going to have multiple different types of capital fund you at one point in time and over time. You should expect that your funders come with a set of relationships where they love your deal so much that they're willing to daisy chain you to other relationships that they have. That's called capital sequencing. Capital stack is what do you have going on right now? Capital sequencing is what you have going on over time. And these are difficult things to master, but guys, this is your job as the CEO of your company. to make sure it never runs out of capital and it's always really well capitalized. We're going to move on. I'm going to quickly pull up a very, very good friend from Florida, Mr. Curtis Allison. He's going to come up really quick. We're going to get into some capital conversations you can have. Now, this man owns a kind of a unique business. He does outdoor patio furniture, but really expensive outdoor patio furniture. You know what that means? He has clients that have lots and lots and lots of money that he's been building for many, many years. And he owns a multi-million-dollar business, and he's one of the best super connectors out in Florida, and he's been a really important part. This is how I met Terrell in bringing the Dade County opportunities that we're talking about between Las Vegas and here in Nevada, and in Florida. He's the one that brought us Elijah, who's the man really behind a lot of the AI and the blockchain opportunity in Dade County and Miami. And so I just got back from a couple of weeks. And so just really quickly, Curtis, we're going to talk about how you have leveraged all of these relationships for many years. You wouldn't consider yourself super capital savvy, but you're a relationship savvy guy. And so you understand business opportunity, business development, and I believe that at the beginning of a fundraising journey, it is business development. And so one of the things I've been really impressed with Curtis Allison and what he's doing is he's been willing to put his own vision for his own company. He still has it in mind. He's still working on it every day. He's got families that he's feeding and supporting for many, many years. But he's also able to multitask well enough to build these other capital relationships with all these players. And guess what? Because he's in these people's homes, he has their trust. So you want to give us a few comments on this, and we're going to keep rolling through on this subject.
Kurt, you never surprise me. I wasn't ready for this, but that's all right. So thank you. Thanks for inviting me over, and I'd love to share that. With me personally, on accident, for 26 years, 2.5 decades, I have been buying 10-foot squares at your favorite shows all over the country. So home shows, fairs, festivals. I sponsor a major sponsor for Barrett-Jackson, Balloon Fiesta, Miami Boat Show, here in Vegas, if you've ever been to the Cowboy Christmas. So you're walking through those events, and you're walking by my products. And so what I've been able to do on accident is have conversations with some of you, maybe even in this room, and your friends, family, and had 5 minutes, right, to earn their trust, right, and be able to actually figure out what's going on. Now, when in my early career, what I realized is I always wanted to sell the biggest and baddest thing that I had, because why? I made a commission on those items, which was a larger commission. A lot of people focus on the funding, the big hit, but they're not really thinking about the small hit. What I mean by that is that if you really stop and realize that nobody, and excuse me when I say this, but nobody cares about your chessboard. Nobody cares about yours.
And they may not even care enough about your startup to tell your baby's ugly. So there's a whole other conversation
Right.
about feedback.
But what happens is you're trying to pitch, or whatever it is that you're selling, you're trying to pitch your board to a person that doesn't really care about your board. Forget about your board and get down to the bare bones. What are their wants, needs, and desires?
That's how you find aligned capital, by them telling you what they want, what they care about, what they're committed to, what they're creating in the next 90 days. And you as a founder, you think, who do I know? How do I become resourceful? What can I bring to them that sets me apart? And now they're like, whoa, this person brought value to my life and never asked me for $1 yet.
1 out of 5 conversations that I have, I bring them products that I'm not going to make $1 on. Because why? They needed that. That's a form of trust. And by collecting the people and their wants and their needs and their desires, and then sharing that and actually living it, what happens is now you build friendships for life. And I've done that on accident for 26 years. I've sat in front rooms, met grandkids, kids, and asked the hard questions, right? The hard questions for the right reason. And the right reason is always to what? Learn. Learn from the people in front of you. Ask, and you might ask yourself, what are those 6 hard questions? Who, what, where, why, when, how? They used to call that journalism, by the way. Right?
So something I want to tell you about Curtis as he hands the mic to the next guy that's going to come up on stage, which is Mr. James Bradford, is ask yourself if you're willing to do what Curtis did. So I fly out to this 2-week tour of the Florida ecosystem. I'm in Miami, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, I'm in Orlando, I'm in Tampa, and Curtis, who lives in the panhandle of Florida, says something crazy to me like, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive to Tampa, which is hours, and then I'm going to drive you all the way down to Miami, which is 4 hours. Okay, now he's very smart because now he knows I'm in his car, I'm held hostage. We had some damn good Mexican food we found at the gas station. Man, that was crazy. Think about that. Think about, like, he understood the value. He knows how busy I am. He knows I'm getting hit up constantly. He knew I hadn't had an opportunity to hear his vision. He'd spent enough time with me in these different cities, Vegas and whatever we had invested, to know I did care about his vision, but we hadn't had a chance to get to it. He has a chessboard and we have a chessboard together, and we needed some time to coordinate. So ask yourself if you're the kind of founder that's going to show up in that way. This guy's a multimillionaire. He's had a multi-million-dollar company for years, and yet he says, look, I'm not an expert in everything. I'm now understanding how important this capital thing is, big fundraising fluent is. I'm going to see if I can lock Kurt up in a car for hours so that we can get down, and it ended up being really fun. Thank you so much. Hand that mic to Mr. James Bradford as he comes up. Thank you so much. Let me tell you about James, guys. James and I just became, I think, pretty good buddies. Have a seat.
Well, my back. I'm gonna
Oh, okay. He used to be a CrossFit dude, so he's recovering. So James and I think, became pretty good buds just a couple of days ago. In this vein of capital conversations, what I really appreciate about James, much like Curtis, is he's real about what he knows and real about what he doesn't know. James doesn't know capital, but he knows something far, far more valuable. He knows people. He's ran a multi-million-dollar operation for the last many years, and he's dove into this angel investing world. He is part of the American arm of a community that's invite-only, that's KYC, which means know your client. In banker speak, it means we're going to look at your financials. We're going to look at who you are as a human being. They have an angel syndicate called Six Society. If you guys were at the poolside pitch at Venture House, then you know that they were our partner on that. That was Mr. James that helped to bring that to you. And Mr. James Bradford, who lives in Dallas and works with our friend Stefano Tesca, who's had 12 exits between his partners, one of them being $11.6 billion, runs Level 39, which is one of the largest co-working facilities in London and a very large incubator in Europe. They have this community that they're building that's focused on blockchain projects. And the reason I wanted to get James up here really quick is because I really appreciated getting to know the guy and seeing how skillful he is with people. That's his superpower. So what do you have to say about that? You've lost a lot of money in investing. You made some decisions to partner up with Sixth Society, and we're really glad that you're out here in Las Vegas and that you're building community as an angel, especially around blockchain, which I think is one of the most exciting industries that we can take a look at.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Am I talking loud enough? I've lost my voice over the past 3 days, just yelling over loud noises, and then they drugged me out last night. I got home at 7 this morning, being the designated driver. So
such a good friend.
Yeah, so I'm flying out today. I'm like, yeah, did y'all have to pick today, So anyway, yeah, I'm excited. I've been in the networking, I guess, side of things, built a $500 million company in 45 countries over the past decade. Still fairly active in that. As obviously, can't just walk away from your business, but I'm very big on leverage. I'm very big on time freedom. I'm not a tech guy. There's no ego that pushes me forward to continue to drive innovation per se. I'm just a guy that enjoys my freedom with my family. I like to travel, and I love passive income. So that's really my MO in life. And if I can help people do that, I understand the struggle of investing. I've lost probably a couple $1 million on bad deals, investing with the wrong people, wrong deal, not knowing how to vet properly. But I also understand that fintech and blockchain per se is the future. Yeah. And if I can get in seed or pre-seed or family level investing and invest where the elites get to invest to get these big opportunities, that's my goal, and that's what I've been looking for.
So we're going to get into Six Society in a minute. Okay, so we've all invested. We're all funders. How much of us have lost money? All right. Millions lost. Easy. Yep. So think about that from the funder perspective. This is the person that's investing in you. Guess what? We're learning too. We're learning how to create great partnerships. We don't win if you don't win as investors. We don't win if you don't win. We don't want to run your companies. We want to back and support you. So
and that's why one thing, when you raise a funding, don't take any money, just, I call it dumb money. if investor is not going to add value to your
You
company's
want
future,
smart capital, not start capital.
I wouldn't take that money. Yeah, I mean, you can take 20-30% of your capital raise, but never all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, smart money versus dumb money, for sure.
Absolutely. So can you share real quick a little bit about Stefano Tesca and why you're so excited, why we're excited that he's doing a lot of things here in the United States? He just flew all the way from the UK.
He did.
And then more importantly, just Six Society real quick before we move on.
Yeah, Stefano is, Dr. Stefano Tresca is a founding member of the largest incubator in Europe. He has multiple exits, almost 20, a little over a dozen, and I think totaling about 100 billion. He's also in-house labs, so he's got a full in-house coding team. He's a very smart guy. I call him the walking chat GPT. And he's very tech savvy, talks over my head a lot, but also patient and a good mentor. I found him through a mentor of mine that I paid for consulting in business, and my consultant, which is a billionaire out of Dubai, pays him for consulting in the Web3 space. So he's, I'd say he's one of the top. I call him the godfather of blockchain personally, but then again, maybe I'm biased because, I invest with him. But yeah, good guy, and in-house labs. He does third party as long as it has unicorn status, and he can have his hand in it and control a little bit to make sure it's successful. That's the ultimate goal. But our goal is to make blockchain mainstream and as easy as downloading an app for everybody. And that's the world that I wanted to invest into. That's where you're going to get the highest rate of return right now, in my opinion, after many investments. But you have to be very careful. So I had to find the right jockeys in order to invest with. I bank with UBS, and I'm not a billionaire, nowhere near it. So I don't get access to those deals that I'd like to have access to. But with Stefano, I was able.
Six Society.
Six Society. He created it's a soft incubator, a membership base that we get access to these pre-seed level next unicorns. And our big project right now, the next investment round that we're doing, membership only. We don't take institutional. They fund a lot of their stuff themselves. They do well, but we call it the Go Bankless project. It's called Trustify. You'll hear a lot about it, but it's the first truly decentralized, I got to be compliant here, banking solution, super bank. So I call it a MetaMask on steroids, lots of security layers, and then it'll allow 70% of people who don't have a banking solution to have a real banking solution, to be able to use digital currency into fiat, connect bank accounts, do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's unbelievable. And that's going to be our next decacorn. So
well, we look forward to working
yeah.
together, James, and
Thank
doing
you.
more events. All right, we're going to have
thank
Mr. Jordan Hutchinson, one of my partners, come on up. You're going to hand the mic to him. Jordan Hutchinson is my partner on the family office side of things. So guys, we care about the funders and we care about the founders. We're always building both ends of the spectrum at Venture House. Mainsail is the name of this community, and really, guys, if you don't know what a family office is, it's very simple. It's a founder that's exited with over $100 million and now is having to manage that wealth. The average family office manages over $1 billion, and they tend to write checks that other groups wouldn't, based on the fact that they can and they can do whatever they want because they're mavericks, because they're entrepreneurs, right? So we've founded a community that is specifically for ultra high net worth and for family offices based right here in Las Vegas and in Miami, Florida, at some point maybe Dubai and the MENA region. And Mainsail's job is to understand capital so well and understand the community and the challenges that family offices have, first world problems, and for us to put our arms around them and to produce the most interesting, creative, and unique experiences that they could hope for. And so that's the reason we dream up things like the Pitch World Series, which is a March Madness style national competition for startups to come to Vegas and to pitch family offices at F1. So we're working on that for November. Hope we pull that one off. And then we have a Jetson Capital event at the end of September at a jet hangar with, what is it, $15 billion that we think we've got coming up? 100 billion. Yep, okay. I was off by a whole decimal point, 100 billion. My bad. That's not quite a rounding error. So, we're working towards the Super Bowl as well. We've got a family office event that we're doing there. So the point of all this is I would like to chat with you about, you grew up around a family that's job it was to raise capital. You guys did a lot with the success you had in getting into anti-trafficking. The reason I bring that up, guys, is when you start becoming so successful that you are a little bit unattached from the daily concerns that maybe some of the rest of us still have, you get to really open up your heart and to think about, what's my purpose? What's the legacy I'm going to leave? Now, this is important because you're going to be talking to capital players that's where they're at. They're in the legacy stage of their lives. And so finding an angle like anti-trafficking or something that they're deeply passionate and committed to and supporting or bringing resources to that is often a way to build that relationship. So in this vein that we're having, and then maybe we'll get a chance to get into some Q&A where you guys get to ask all four of us some questions. Talk to us about capital conversations and talk to us about kind of what you've been learning. You've been around fundraising, but you and I are always learning about family offices every single day because that's who we talk to.
Absolutely.
Jordan Hutchinson from Utah.
Thank you. So to give background, I grew up in the capital raising space as well as the family office space. So I got to see both the investment fund side of people trying to get money for their firm or for the fund, but also the investment side of deciding, are we going to deploy capital into this founder, into this fund, whatever it may be. So it gave a good perspective on both sides. The biggest thing is, whether it be angels or high net worths or big old family offices, they're very relationship based. They're very big on, okay, do I like you? Do I want to go boating with you? Do I trust you with my kids? We'll figure out if your deal's any good later. We'll figure out if your industry is something we want to look into later.
The money is secondary, the relationship is primary. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah. When you've made enough money that you're in the 100 millions and billions, it's not about, okay, is this a good opportunity that's going to completely 10x my portfolio? It's about, do I want to be in business with you for the next decade? Do I trust you? Do I like you?
It's a marriage.
Yeah, and I see so many founders that they pitch our family, they pitch a lot of us, that they get in there and they basically say, hey, I don't know you, I don't care about you, I don't even want to ask you your name, but I've got this great deal, and let me show you my pitch deck. That's my biggest...
Give me your funders, give me your angels.
Oh, did I mention I want your money? That's all they care about. And then from the funder perspective, it's like, okay, you don't care about me, you just see me as a check. And they're not about that.
Lauren,
please.
Terrell, and Jordan, tell me how it makes you feel as a human being when we fund somebody, my money, investor money, bank money, it all comes through me. How does it make you feel when you are looked at as the bank in a deal? That's our only value.
It sucks. That's what I can say. But the reason it sucks is, as soon as you see that kind of founder, it's, as I'm running from the transactional salespeople, I'm running with from those founders as well, because that person didn't talk through it. He doesn't understand what the hell life means. He's not going to be able to retain employees. He will look at everybody as a dollar sign. That is the background of that information psychologically where it takes. And then before your first meeting with the investor shouldn't be about your product nor what you need. Get to know him. Tell about yourself, family, background, what you did to achieve. If he gives you a chance second meeting, only in that case you can talk about the product.
Guys, let me give you an example of how to make this real. So poolside pitch. We've got founders that are all disappointed they don't get to be up on stage. And I'm like, guys, the real gangster move is to be sitting next to the investor in the audience, building a freaking relationship with them, hanging out with them after the fact. Some of the best founders, and of course we chose great founders. We tried to match up to who was there, but we also had a lot of founders that were sly and to say, Kurt, I know that I built a relationship with you. I now know that you trust me, and you're going to put me in front of some of the right individuals because we built a relationship, or I'm going to be savvy enough to really listen to the way these investors are talking to other people. I'm going to build a relationship with them after the fact, not on stage. And if you're a really advanced founder, if you really know what you're doing, that's actually better because then you're building on a more human-to-human connection.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't feel good when it's just a transactional relationship. And, conversely, all money is not good money, right? Just because there are investors and people with money that you can approach, I wouldn't suggest it, right? You want to make sure that these people are aligned with your values. These people are aligned with the mission of your company, right? Most of these relationships are going to be 10 years long. You know how many ups and downs you're going to go through that process. There are a lot. And you want to be sure that you're connecting with investors that are aligned with what you envision for your future, not just because you need the check. Because you will end up in situations where perhaps tech implodes a particular year and you can't pay, or, you know, whatever is happening in your business, you're experiencing a downturn. And those people can become sharks. Okay, it can get really bad. So you want to make sure the relationship is there, you're aligned with these people, and make them feel good if you do find that match, right? Where it's not just, hey, I'm taking your money and we'll talk to you next year and give you an update. Call us, right? Give us some
Be
updates.
accountable. When something goes wrong, own it.
Yeah.
And you know why it's important to have the first investor, especially in your company, have a belief into your vision? Because if you choose the investor correctly, your next rounds will be raised by those investors. They will introduce you. You don't need to go look for funding.
Funders have friends, guys.
If you prove them that you are who you say you are, and that you deliver the product, and then you have the passion to change the world and do whatever you want to do, and that bring the value. I mean, if I would be investor, I will call everybody and, hey, this is the unicorn. Like, here you go.
Guys, none of
They
us
will
want to
love
be the
it.
last money in a deal. We want other people to come in and capitalize your company. We win when you win. Other comments, Jordan, on this vein?
No, similar of, there's a lot of startups out there. There's a lot of people with products. Some of them are great, some of them aren't that good. And so a lot of it is when you're talking to people, getting that feedback of, hey, we're getting to the point where we're pitching you. Where's the call to action? Whether it be, do you want to throw money at us, or what are your thoughts? Is this any good? What would you change about it? You know, if you're continually telling investors about your product and you're not getting anywhere, start getting feedback from them, saying, hey, you said you don't want to invest with us, why? Or, hey, you honestly don't want to hear the rest of my
Do
pitch,
not get defensive when they give you that
What
advice.
can I do to improve? I mean, get a feedback that you can take action on.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to Mike.
Passing along.
Yeah.
That's the one sentence. So.
Yeah, and guys, be willing to take feedback. Think of it this way. This is the beginning of a relationship. Your receptivity to their feedback is critical. As you pitch, you should continue to pick up speed and confidence and clarity in your offer as you talk to people that are highly experienced. Guys, I've seen 17,000 pitches. I know a great founder when I see one. I can smell it. I can feel it. I know when somebody's going to be successful. I know when I met Z that she was going to sell her company or she was going to capitalize it. That's the reason I put her on stage. Okay? That's something we can sniff out. I have a talent for it only because I've done it for so long. So again, that feedback is absolutely critical. When you start, you don't know that much. That's the reason why I can tell when a founder hasn't even talked to 100 clients. This 100 first tries thing, if you're not willing to go talk to 100 people, then you're not going to do really well with your pitches. Don't just go out and pitch. Make sure that you've done some work around product market fit. Make sure that you understand your numbers. That's the reason why you talk to Sammy Lee. Make sure that you understand fundraising fluency. If you're still confused, you should be reading every word that I write on my LinkedIn every single day, because I have 20 years of experience living, sleeping, and breathing in startup loans, venture debt, and venture capital. It's all I ever think about other than community building. Okay? Fundraising fluency. And then last but not least, we are going to be running pitch kung fu sessions where you have the opportunity to really pitch. But inside of the lens of all these other things first, you need to be prepared when you go out there. And these relationships with these funders, guys, I promise you, they have other relationships that they will bring to you if they feel that. But here's the thing, they will never do it if they think that you will make them look bad. They will always do it if they think that their stock rises because they're introducing you to somebody that they know you're going to be a great fit for, or that you're going to make them look good. You need to think about this. That's how basic some of this stuff is. Like, these are still human beings.
Yeah. I would add to that the importance of transparency, right? Especially from the investor perspective. Even when you're having those ups and downs in business, it's important to tell the truth, right? A lot of people pitch and it sounds very grandiose in the beginning, and then after you get into it, you pull the covers back and the numbers are not exactly what you projected or what you presented. And so be transparent, be truthful, and I think that'll take you a long way way so that other investors will introduce you to their friends, right? We have funders. What'd you say? You have all these cool
Funder
tags.
friends.
Funder friends, yeah. So just like the other day when Kurt did the poolside pitch, right? We're in the middle of being all around the city and recruiting for Super Bowl, and he's like, Lauren, can you come and be an investor and, listen to these? So I'm like, no, but my buddy who's a former NBA veteran who's an investor in tech can be there. So CJ Watson, did he come?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, great.
34 angel investments in the last 2 years here in this city.
Yeah, and so he's a great guy, a great investor here in town. So when you're truthful, when you're honest, you're transparent, we'll introduce you to other people, and that'll be even
The
better.
investing community is very small. We all know each other. We all hang out. We all call each other to check on deals. Guys, the truth always comes out. Always. Just be honest.
Also, you gotta know difference between lying and exaggerating. Really, I see lately a lot people are coming pitching the product. Really, you think that it's already making $10 million the way you speak, right? Or you're talking about the things. If you talk to some company, you're saying, "Oh, I already have a contract with them," or just that they are my client. I mean, don't do that. When due diligence happens, that's the worst thing can happen to founder, that what you said, you can't provide the backup.
Yep.
Okay, so Jordan, you have a few more comments you want to share from kind of a family office, high net worth perspective,
Yeah.
because they do think different. Like each capital type, each capital source has a different way that they speak, they language that they operate in. Okay, the 4 major categories. For those of you that think that angels and VCs are the only way to get funded, they are one of 60 different types of capital. And I'm going to break it down into 4 categories for you very simply. Number 1 is public and gov funds. That means your taxpayer dollars are brought back to you in the form of the state, the city, or the nation, somehow, some way. Government contracts. We had Christopher Mitchell on the stage pitching this week. He had a very large government contract. They are not easy to get into, but it's nice when Uncle Sam can pay you some money to help your company. He's going towards an exit in Q1 to a very, very large tech company that all your cell phones use their technology. Number 2 is debt. Know when and how to use debt. There's a bunch of different types of debt. There are loans you can get based on credit, all sorts of things. Know when to use that. We can talk about that if you're confused. Number 3 is equity. This is the one that you're most thinking about most of the time. I'm going to give somebody equity in my company, and they're going to become my partner. I'm getting married, right? And then they get to make partnership decisions with me, and when I exit, they make money, okay? Start thinking outside of that box. Start getting more creative. The last one is what I call raised revenue. I understand that you need to capitalize your company, and you need to have revenue coming into your company. That's probably the answer for most of you guys. Go get some clients. But when I talk about sponsored capital, which is something Jordan and I deal with a lot because we're dealing with decision makers that have billions of dollars. They're not thinking about the equity in your company. They're thinking about what they can do to make their company better, what they can do to serve their audience. This sponsored capital thing, guys, is way bigger of a pipe of capital than venture cap. It's 100 to 1. 100 to 1. Sponsored capital is when they don't take equity and they don't take debt. And the biggest sources of those are the Fortune 2000, private equity, and family offices.
Christian, what were we talking about last night at 1 in the morning? Yes. Helping them. Finding out what are your needs, because they vary. Some of them, they're looking to grow their portfolio, bring a bunch of companies in. Some of them have plenty of cash, and they're just trying to make an impact. They're like, hey, we're looking to get into diversity and inclusion. We're looking to get into environmental impact or clean energy or whatever it may be. But we won't know that if we're just trying to pitch them our deal. And so finding out, hey, what is your buy box? What are your needs? How can I be of value to you? And there might be a synergy there. If you conveniently need HVAC and private equity, then cool, I can fulfill that need with my fund. If you're looking for investor platforms or healthcare tech or whatever it may be, finding out what they want and what they need, and then being the means of providing that for them, that's how you get in with
Guys,
them.
it could be as simple as their 14-year-old daughter loves Pentatonics and you have a relationship with Pentatonics and you get them tickets and backstage passes. It could also be that you go and you study somebody and you understand, oh my gosh, they have a brother that struggles with seizures. Hey, I actually can help that person with the technology I'm building. Do you think that that person that has a brother that's had their entire life destroyed because of seizures and that has kids at home that rely on them as a parent is thinking about dollars, or are they thinking about the quality of life that their family member is having that maybe you can actually do something to serve, to help? So think of it as the outcome, not the interest or the equity in your company. What's the aligned outcome that you can produce?
Another thing is, if you're raising funding, every investor can tell here. One of the things I use in the company, even for R&D projects, before start investing myself into it, I go out, talk, try to sell my vision, what I see that new technology I'm trying to build, how it's going to help the company. If it's B2B product, I get them to sign LOI, non-legally binding document, that if I deliver my vision and if it comes out and helps you the way I'm telling you will save you time or money or anything, would you use it? He signs with those terms, yes, I would use it. Now, if you can sell the vision without having a product and they get the LOI, that means they're committing basically
Guys, that is
potentially
such
for
a
money.
gangster move right
You
there.
gotta do that. If
So
you come to
good.
investor with the 5 LOIs, with the normal size companies that, hey, these dudes wants it. I need to build it, get it to market. And then this is my capabilities, I can do it, or here's the company I work with, they're gonna build it. That's like when these things happens.
That's an
Then
example of raised
you
revenue.
guaranteeing basically.
He's getting the cash flow from the contracts often ahead of time, or he's at least getting commitments.
That's
that an
also
investor
another
would see.
option.
Lauren, ask yourself, somebody comes to you and has 10 LOIs, some from recognizable companies, some from not. How does that make you feel as an angel investor?
A bit more comfortable for sure. That means that people are interested, right, at least.
There's a market, at least some interest in this, especially today with the AI and blockchain, everything else together. I mean, if you come to company, and it's very easy to convince these companies, and if you get 10, 20 LOIs right now for your product, before you build it, that means you validated your idea.
Yeah.
One other factor is an educational component. Is a lot of these, family offices, high net worths, they made their money in VC, tech, real estate, whatever it may be, but they're looking to diversify. They might put some money into whatever their bread and butter is, but they know they need to get other things under their wing. But they don't know a lot about it. So if they made their money doing multifamily, when you're pitching them about your AI, blockchain, crypto, cannabis startup, whatever, they need to know what the crap that means. If they have the background in VC, then yeah, let's get into all the nitty-gritty details and the big words. But at the end of the day, they need to understand the concept. And if they don't have that background, being that means that expert of education for them elevates your status, makes them feel comfortable, and makes them want to do things with you because you are now a trusted source in that industry. If they say, I don't know crap about crypto, but I know Marcus is really good at that, I'm going to talk to Marcus because he knows that industry, even if I don't.
Yeah, it's a really great thing when you can pattern interrupt somebody and help them to simplify and understand an industry they don't know, or you can explain it in a way that's very, very clear and very, very simple. Before I forget, we're going to do something new today where we're going to get a big group picture at the end of this, okay? So don't let me forget. You guys will figure out how to do that. Bunch of entrepreneurs. I don't know if anybody will follow instructions because they're on their own instructions. So guys, we have a bit of time where we've got some options of different things. Choose your own adventure. Do you guys want to do some Q&A with the four of us? Is there any questions in particular you guys would like us to address? This is a massive topic. You can never learn enough about it. Your job, if you're building a world-class startup, is to deeply understand fundraising until such a time as we've built the technology, something Taral and I talk about constantly as the technology needed to simplify, streamline, and automate the fundraising process. But it will always still come down to humans funding other humans, humans backing and supporting other humans. You don't want funding, you want backing and support. Backing and support means we're not going to just fund you, you're going to live or die on your own. It means we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure you don't fail. Okay? How do you guys want to move on? Is there any topics you'd like us to cover or Q&A or anything like that?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I want to get perspective on.
You might want to, if it,
So as people reach out to Dr. Stefano about potential deals and investment, he'll forward me emails sometimes, and we laugh at the way people, one, email. So I just want to give you everybody some advice. Learn how to send a proper email. We got an email yesterday from a guy, a startup. He literally put website, please check out the website link, check out my website, Stefano, thanks. All in one line, crazy. He deleted the email. Stefano forwarded it to me and pressed delete after. So learn how to send a proper email, one. Two, when you ask an investor, someone that's big like a Dr. Stefano, you're looking for capital, and asking for an NDA on the first time, don't do that. It's extremely unprofessional. They're not going to sign the NDA more than likely.
Investors don't sign NDAs, guys. We don't care about your idea. We care about your ability to execute. We're not going to steal your idea. We're not operators. We don't want to operate your business. We don't want to steal your business.
Yeah, keep the confidential information out if you have something proprietary, and then y'all can get to that later. But learn how to pitch. Keep it simple, and where's the demand? How am I going to fulfill the demand? And this is the value I'm going to bring. Here's what I'm asking for,
And this is marketing, guys. You do some research on Lauren, and you say, I'm going to approach Lauren. But you go and do some research. You look her up. You realize that she's really into like rock and roll music and has loved like Guns N' Roses her whole life. I don't think she does. But has loved Guns N' Roses her whole life. And so you're like, holy crap. And so when you email her or you message her or whatever, you have something that's unique, that's a hook that shows you're paying attention to who she is behind the money, who she is behind the professional side. Because guys, again, all capital allocators, there's only a small percentage of the capital out there that is actually a professional investor full time. Those are the VCs. And they're wonderful when they're the right fit for you because they will go to bat for you. But the rest of the time, they're running other businesses. Family offices, the definition of a family office is we don't want to manage our own money. We've allotted it to one person. That's why it's a single family office. One person or a team is devoted to managing their wealth and nothing else. Whereas most financial advisors, and this is no disrespect to them, they manage a couple $1 million in 150 families on average, and that's how they manage the money, right? But when you have a massive net worth, you're like, hey, look, I need a team dedicated and focused on this is their job. So you got to understand that, guys. And the quality of who's managing the money at these Fortune 2000s and the family offices can be laughable all the way to incredible, right? There's a huge range. There's no homogeneity, which is to say it's all the same across the field. You could be dealing with a total nincompoop that's the cousin of the father that had all the money, or you could be dealing with somebody that's actually really ridiculously talented that's allocating funds. So be prepared for that. It's the wild, wild west out there when it comes to capital, guys. You guys need to know that. Okay, other questions?
Good.
Yes, Attila.
So, can you elaborate? You speak much better than I do. You speak much better than I do. The research before you talk to an investor is very important. Can you elaborate to that? And then we sort of give the impression here that you have to talk to your investor and it's a make or break and it's done.
Yeah.
Funder friends are important because most of the time you don't have one investor. You have multiple investors.
So Attila's been involved in the San Diego ecosystem for the last 10 years. He comes every single month to court the people that are the Nevada stakeholders like Lauren and the rest, because he believes that Las Vegas is going to be where San Diego is today. And so he's very good at understanding the relationship side. He does the research. I'm going to let Jordan take this one because we don't go in blind with the family offices either. We want to know as much as possible about them. And we're not just interested in give us a deal or give us money. We're interested in like, who are you guys? Because we know we're going to be spending time at events. We're going to be traveling with them. We're going to be masterminding with them. So when he said do your research to understand who these people are, what does that kind of look like? I mean, it isn't really rocket science.
Yeah, it's a mix of vocational and personal. So obviously, you know, I was talking to a family office a couple weeks ago. Got on their LinkedIn. They own the Miami Dolphins, the Carolina Panthers, and half of Florida. And I was like, okay, cool. These guys are big dogs. They've got a lot of fun things. But then I started diving into the personal profiles of the individual people that I'd be meeting with. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, stuff like that. Finding out, okay, what's their interest? Even on LinkedIn, what are they, posting on or commenting on and stuff like that. Finding out, okay, outside of the professional world, outside of being a normal business discussion, what do you do? When I get on the phone with people and they're like, hey, I know your family's working in the child trafficking space, and I know you like surfing, and I know you got 2 kids, we have conversations that last for hours because I know, okay, they've done their research, they care about me, not just our money, and they want to build a relationship. And so finding out not only what's their background and history, do they work at Goldman Sachs or the vocational side, but who are they as people and what are their interests, that stands out a ton, and that makes you stand out. That makes it so they're like, oh crap, he knows a ton about me, I want to know a ton about you. And then it's like, okay, give me your background, what do you do? And eventually you get to the point of, okay, what do you do now? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. I've got this startup that I'm working on or this fund that I'm raising money for that does this, and this. And it doesn't come across as pitchy because this is what I do for my job. It's not, I really need your money. It's, This is just me. And then at that point, they're like, okay, I like you. You just gave a really good not pitch. We should look into doing
You're
stuff
really
together.
enrolling these funders into who you are as a human being. Like, you're not likely to get a lot of time from me because I'm in cities all over the place. I'm looking at venture ecosystems. I get asked for money every single day in my life for the last 18 years. But if you're crazy enough to get on a mountain bike with me, you're actually going to get an hour of time with me, right? So it's like that whole idea. I don't care for golf very much, but the reason why golf is great is you can't get 30 minutes of somebody's time, but if they happen to be into golf, you're now on the course with them for 4 hours.
Yeah, like being stuck with the Curtis, yeah. So, one of the things is, guys, there are a lot of tools. AI, I'm using certain tools that even with the important clients or customers, you can do, we do a lot of internal tools we use for the behavioral analysis of the person who I'm going to meet. It gets really deep into the things, but the similar tool you can find, Crystal knows. Everything.
Personality profiling.
Yeah,
Like in the
personality
LinkedIn even.
profiling. The way you talk to person, the word choices you use, that's the first. If I am a golfer, if you start using a golf terms, really, using one or two subtle, like one or two golf terms that when you build a sentence, it builds it for you. Don't worry about that part, but you got to pay attention for future. And then it creates the email, text, how you need to talk on the phone, how short or be more detailed or everything. It gives you guidance. And then additionally, you can have 3-4 people if you're meeting a board or team. It will analyze and can create your pitch deck as well. So
a couple of comments, guys. Interesting that startups are regional. I understand that when you build a tech company, you're global, but they are regional. So understanding what your region is actually really good at. So I've been getting a lot of questions for years around what is Vegas going to be known for. I'm finally feeling like I'm ready to say what I think the 4 or 5 verticals are that we're going to become known for. It's clear that we're the best in the world at entertainment, hospitality, and gaming. I think e-gaming gets to be added to that. I believe it's also the writing is on the wall for sports. Sports tech, sports health, sports anything. We're becoming the sports city. I don't even care about sports, but what I care about is that, like music, it's a universal language that other people care about. So now guess what? I'm learning about the Raiders because they're now my team. And I want them to win the Super Bowl, and they better. Don't let me down, Raiders. Anyway, next up, I believe that healthcare and medicine, I believe UNLV is going after that really hard. So I think that's a pretty safe bet. Okay, last but not least, I intend to co-create with the best content creators in the world a vertical around social tech, community tech, and content tech and production. The writing's on the wall, guys. Mark Wahlberg's here, Hollywood 2.0, Disney and Sony, $500 million studios apiece. Come on, what other city could you have a content studio in than Las Vegas? It's the reason why at Venture House we're building these podcast studios, right? Interesting story that happened the other night around setting yourself apart as a founder. Venture House was starting to close down. We had a lot of people lingering and talking. And I said to a few of you guys that were there, isn't it interesting that the person that is probably the smartest, most likely to be successful founder here, everybody probably disregarded, and he's the one that's mopping the floors right now. Didn't even ask, decided to hop in and clean up. Why? Well, A, because he believes in what we're building at Venture House, and he understands all the time, money, and energy that we put in that we're not being paid for, these events are free, to support the ecosystem. But I thought it was very interesting. This is somebody that doesn't leave the house much, is incredibly dedicated to what they're building, and has found a way to capitalize their company that most people are not dedicated enough and disciplined enough to follow through with. I believe this individual is going to be staring down a multi-$100 million exit. I'm willing to bet on it. And he was mopping the floors. Very quiet, nobody knows who he is. Ask yourself if you're that kind of founder that thinks about that. And he has access to the inside heart of the team of what's going on in Las Vegas because of his affiliation with myself and a few others. I'm not important, but as a collective, we are up to some really big and important things. Any other commentary that you guys have on some of this stuff?
You've been quiet.
I'll be fine.
Oh, anything you want.
I don't know. Are there any more questions?
Yeah,
or?
questions. Yeah, go for it.
What was the difference out of all these wonderful discussions I'm hearing, by the way? You guys are great, thank you. You said you have to determine whether VC is the right way to go or a different way to go. Can you kind of
Yeah. Okay, so there's a business model. When you raise money as a VC, there's a beginning and an end date for the fund. When you're a family office, there's no beginning and end date. It's your money, right? So you have to understand you're choosing a business model, as you always do. You can be somebody in the fitness space and choose this business model or choose this business model. When you choose to get funding in a capital type, you're choosing a business model that must match the trajectory and your talent and your skill and capacity as a founder, right? Now look, we're all learning, so no founder is perfect. Founders don't just drop out of the womb being amazing. They spend the time learning and being awesome and taking on hard things. You can know if you're a startup founder if you're building a small business or if you're building a startup. Your level of ability to kind of maintain and sustain hard things and to go without and to be disciplined will determine whether or not you truly can actually build a startup. But it also comes down to what's your growth trajectory. You know, what's the level of experience of the team? How much capital do you need now versus later? The individual that was mopping the floor understood that the government would speak a certain language. So he went to the government and said, I know you need this. I can provide it to you. And by the way, this piece of paper I'm sliding across the desk says that you're legally bound to actually do it. He was informing them that they were breaching the law and that he had the solution. He knew more than anyone in the room by the time he walked into the room. He doesn't need VCs because of the way that he set up the chessboard. Now that is a 1 in 1,000 founder that can operate and think like that, and that is willing to wait for years for the right timing and legislation and relationships to make things happen. So, you know, whether you choose VCs also depends on, not every VC is the same, guys. We're talking about VCs like they're all the freaking the same. Like, some of them will only fund women. Some of them will only fund women where it's the first check. Some of them will only fund diversity, equity, and inclusion individuals. Some of them, you know, are interested in a 40-50% rate of return. But most of them must see a multi-100% type situation each year for the first couple of years, and they're willing to lose on 97 of them to have 3 become a winner. And by the way, guys, they deploy all their money in the first 5 to 6 years of a 10-year fund. So ask them, what year of the fund? What's the vintage of the fund? So that you know, because they're not going to allocate it year 8. Also, don't be afraid to go talk to the other founders that they funded and say, can I talk to them and see what the relationship was like? Has that VC shown up or not? You can ask them those questions. Sammy, I know you have a question. Go for it.
Answer your question, in my opinion, product market fit is something we try and figure out for our product. I would argue it's also something to do for your fundraise. Figure out
Funder market fit.
Yes, funder market fit.
And there's also founder fit.
Yes, figuring out, okay, what solutions does our, the capital raising side provide for anyone that's wanting to invest in us, and who's looking for that. So analyzing whether it's a certain type of VC or family office or big fat endowment funds, whatever it may be, finding out what their priorities are and which of those you align with most, and then I would laser focus on those.
It could also be that they're someone you want to keep in your pocket for the next round. You might want an angel right now that's willing to do it off of a napkin, but you've done your research, okay? That's the stage you're at. Then you realize, oh, this person only does Series A. It doesn't mean that they're a nobody to you. It just means they do Series A investments. That's what they love. That's their sweet spot. That's their risk tolerance. That's what their relationship stack of capital that they bring to the table is. It's all geared around Series A. There's plenty of groups that only do B and C stuff and D stuff. Guys, that's like investment bank level stuff, right? They don't even know how to quantify the risk of somebody that's in their pre-seed stage.
So I'll tell you guys a quick story on how I ended up getting venture capital backed, right? Here in Las Vegas a few years ago, pre-pandemic, I went out to an event at Nevada Partners thinking that it was a business tax saving kind of event. Anyway, I show up, I'm dressed to impress, and I'm like, what's happening? Show me how to save money.
You had your fancy pants.
I have my fancy pants on. Yeah, not today. Sorry to disappoint. But yeah, so they have 45 venture capital firms in the room from all over the country. And I was shocked. And they all talked about how much money they had received from the state. I think at that time the state had released about 14 million or something like that. And so these companies came here, they went up to the mic, each of them, hey, we just got 3 million. We're looking for manufacturing companies to invest in. Hey, we just got 2 million. We're looking for companies that are going to create jobs. We're looking for health tech. They have very specific focuses, just like, what Jordan mentioned about understanding what their interests are. So anyway, I took this handout that they had, which was like 5 pages long. Each of them had a blurb of, we've got a few million, here's our focus. everything that said we're looking for job creators. Of course, I own all in recruiting. It's a recruitment and
You're like,
staffing
"I got
company.
this."
Yeah. Not only do we create jobs, but we help people fill jobs all around the country. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to reach out to these people, and it worked, right? Because I understood their interests. I did the research on the
See that, the
companies.
follow-up on the back end?
Yeah, and was able to pitch a few of them, and a few of them said no, and it was like, okay, that's great. You're looking for real estate companies, and that's not what I am. But let me find my focus, let me align, and we have a great relationship. I'm backed by Advantage Capital, and we've gone through several rounds of funding, and the same with Access Community Capital. You know, I ended up reaching out to Nick, who used to own an amazing luxury theater down here in the, well, it was around the corner, actually. And now he's in front of mostly all of the funds in the city. And so us reconnecting at the Super Bowl Business Connect meetings is like, oh my God, what are you up to now? And he told me he started a fund. So now we've been able to get additional funding from them, right? So it's relationship-based, it's understanding the interests of the investors, how do you fit in, and how do you express your value to that entity so you can get what you need, but not make it transactional, actually relationship-based.
Absolutely.
And investment thesis, I mean, I used to work, basically write the reports and our reports from the Ernst & Young and the PwC. When I used to work, I was auditing or the consulting to different VC and private equity firms, hedge funds. Every and each of these companies have their investment thesis. And if they told their LPs that we're going to invest on the Series A investment, basically companies, they cannot make investment, even if they know it, they want it, they cannot do that investment. They will go to jail. First, it's a fiduciary responsibility to fulfill it. And second thing, where you can find it on their website, About Me section, always they have to show it there.
Most great investors have only one or two or three things that they'll invest in unless they're agnostic. But even agnostic, there's still a bit of a bucket around what they tend to like, what they tend to be focused on.
Lately, they came out after the, I would say, crypto industry started going up. Everybody was like, I'm industry agnostic, didn't decide yet where I'm going to invest, which I don't know really my job, basically.
Unless they're a really recognizable firm, you might want to be careful if they're agnostic, because you really do want somebody that comes with a bevy of relationships around what you do. You know, that's smart capital versus start capital. We're going to get to Sammy. You're going to be the last one.
So we all know I love execution. It's my favorite thing. Do what you can do today. One of the things that gets in the way of that is things can be scary.
Yep.
Can you tell us about a project you were scared to start and what you did to get it done anyways?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can start that one. One of the projects from being a scary standpoint, I will say it was self-sovereign identity protocol. When I started building it 2017-18 as a kind of passion project, and I understood blockchain and everything else as a researcher before that one, I started to building that company, and I wanted to build, I knew that without identity, it's not going to be possible in the future for these all blockchain products to work. If it works, there will be problem. And then data. We used to have a data marketplace management systems. I saw how much of our data is for sale. I built a structure that allows user to create ID and then help them to monetize basically their own data, block everybody else tracking you, and then you can sell your own data. And then that was when I was scary was I invested over the $3 million in the project and then going out for raising a funding. And what happens, 239 investors later, investors said, hey, two of them were open. After 20 due diligence, they said, you will not get investment. From the standpoint that amazing product, it's the future, cleanest data, companies will save 70%, people will monetize the data, amazing, they have the control. But if I invest, and you have a business and the investment background, would you invest into the future of this data and everything else, knowing that as soon as you put the money, you will shoot yourself in the leg? The reason they said that because we had nonprofit Human Data Rights Foundation that users if company sells their data, any other company, we could track it, and we could, if the user wants to stay private and somebody sells his data, we could sue them. And I even found litigation finance hedge funds to finance those. So no investor got in, and then I kept building it and now invested in the new startup, that one.
So one
That
thing,
was scary, losing all that
so
money.
you guys hear that? He said he talked to 200 different investors. You need to understand fundraising will be the single hardest thing you will ever do in your venture. It's a reason it sets the men from the boys and the women from the girls, and it separates them for sure. We talk about it all the time. You probably think everybody's getting funded on Shark Tank and VCs. That's like 0.001%. It's a tiny figure of those that are successful in going and building these companies that can go the distance to exit. It's really not as common as you think, but it's absolutely possible. But it's going to require you to close the gap between who you are today and who you get to become, as Alex and I like to talk about, in order for that to happen.
I'm glad you brought up Shark Tank. So if we're talking about fear, right, Sammy, something that we did that was pretty scary, we started a business tech competition 3 years ago called the Shark-ish. So here in the city, we've funded now adult entrepreneurs with business ideas, right, who are not even, they don't even have a website yet, right? They just have an idea, they can articulate it, they can pitch to us, and we've funded so far a digital health tech app. A young man named Andrew Smith, first year, he won $5,000. It's seed money that we present. We also do that for kids. So if you have kids that have tech ideas, we had a little girl who was accepting cryptocurrency for her e-commerce site, which was to produce modest bathing suits for teenage girls. She won money. The second year, we actually expanded internationally, and we had an agri-tech business win in Uganda, Africa. So this year, we had it's a dance tech, or I'm not sure how to categorize it, entertainment tech, but he and his daughter created an amplified board for tap dancers, flamenco, and different types of dance. It's a patented technology. All of the famous dancers are using this. So anyway, he pitched, he won $5,000. And then we had Justin Booma, who actually was the rock, paper, scissors kid here, who has an awesome initiative. He won.
He's 10.
Yeah, he's 10, and he's been on Lester Holt. I mean, he's very impressive.
Yes.
So that was a scary project for us. It was like there are some areas of opportunity in town that you can see that where people are not being acknowledged. They're being overlooked, right? They're being underfunded, specifically socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, people of color, right? So our Shark-ish was put into place specifically to help those types of founders to at least get seed money to keep going. And we do that with providing them mentorship and resources. So it's not just transactional where you get our money and we send you on the way. We are introducing you to other investors. For example, the guy that won in Uganda, he won $5,000, bought 2 acres of land in Africa. I was like, what the? He opened a store, and then he went to go pitch to another entity, won $25,000. Now he's under 40 in Uganda. So, you know, the network and the resources that we provide through the Shark-ish is really phenomenal. We would love your support. We'll do it again every February this year. Of course, we're doing Super Bowl, so it'll be post-Super Bowl. We're doing it in partnership with the NFL alumni, Tech Alley. Kurt and everybody else supports it. And so it was a scary project for us, but we did it. We executed. We've got Microsoft that put in $1,000 into the fund. We got HP to put in $5,000 this year. So it's a growing fund, and it's just a good thing to do to give back to the community. And it was scary at first, but we did it, and it's very impactful.
You know, guys, one tip that I'll give you when you're working with somebody and you're not sure that they're really a fit for what you're doing, but you know that they have capital, there's this old adage of ask for advice, get capital, ask for capital, get advice. So just know when to ask for which, and understand that sometimes the advice is really what you need, because mentorship is critical, those that have gone before you. One thing I will say is I'm scared every time I start any project because I swing for the fences. I don't do anything small. So when Jordan and I decided we were going after family offices, because we knew it was very important to bring capital to Miami and to Vegas and to really make sure that these people are cared after because of how important they are to the economy. Think about it. These families manage the companies that run the planet. It's a very unique set of relationships, right? And they all have wishes, goals, and dreams that we can use to also capitalize the next generation. You had a really quick question, Caitlin, before we move on.
Yeah, what would be your advice to founders that their project might have a lower ROI, but a very high impact?
Yeah, I would not seek venture capital for that unless, the question was, those that have a lower ROI but high on sustainability or impact, I would not seek traditional venture for that. I would go after groups that are, because there are funds that are very long on green tech, those kinds of things, and I would go after that. And I would also make sure that if you're doing blockchain or fintech, that it's tied into that.
And there's specific funds called, search a category of the funds called the impact funds.
Yep.
Impact VC funds. Those companies cannot invest anything else unless it impacts the, depending
Utah
on
tends
like
to lead the
eco
pack
or
when it comes to impact.
people,
Yeah.
diversity, other things. And those funds are your best bet. I heard I believe it was your pitch about the energy
The island.
at the island. Yeah, it's really good, but you need to, I think, that tech is really on the alley of the impact investors and nonprofits. Also, don't forget about the nonprofits. Nonprofits puts a lot of money. If it's going to impact it, just find the right
I would
nonprofit.
find a group that's very liquid in the private equity space. You and me and Alex can talk about this, where they're real estate and they're on the impact side, that understands the environmental and technological opportunity that you're bringing. That's what I would say. So, like for example, if a Six Society was paired with another group like that, that could make a lot of sense as a capital stack, right? Because they get it. All right, guys. What we're going to do is, go ahead with your question real quick, and then you're all going to come down here, and we're going to have somebody take a picture from up there of all of us down here.
One question, any of you.
Yeah.
Do any of you know what Pareto optimality is?
I don't.
What?
I don't.
What is the question?
Oh, Pareto?
Pareto optimality.
I know what the Pareto principle is, but I don't know what optimality is, no. Yeah. Okay.
Tell us?
Yeah, you can't tease us like that.
Okay. Go ahead, Z, real quick. Then we got to go to lunch. And by the way, guys, if you're curious of how to reach out, seriously, I write about capital so much on LinkedIn. When you guys come to me and I can tell you haven't paid attention, you haven't studied that stuff, it is annoying. It's like going to an author I'm not an author, but when you go to an author or somebody that you're trying to hit up and there's tons of information and it's clear you haven't even done the research, like, guys, I don't want to repeat myself. I can't stand that. I would rather spend that unique time we have together getting really specific because you've done the homework and you've thought about it and you've let who's got my money and those questions in that post and the other posts I have and the other videos. Guys, you can watch all these sessions and talk and we'll go through them first before we have a conversation, and it'll save you and I a lot of time, and I can give you some very focused advice on what it is that you're doing. Thank you so much for coming out to Who's Got My Money.
Thank you.
Come on down, come on down.